Hi everyone, and welcome to this edition of Ask a Scientist. My name is Miss Michelle, and I am an instructor for Science from Scientists in Minnesota. I am also a forensic scientist, which is going to be our topic for today. So forensic scientists are people that work in crime labs, and we use science to help solve crimes. Today, I will be answering questions from Andrew. So Andrew, can you give us a brief introduction of yourself, where you're from, and maybe something that you've been doing for fun while we're all locked at home for our stay-at-home order?
Okay, well, my name is Andrew, and I have guinea pigs, so I've been playing them a lot lately.
Well, I can't wait to answer some of your questions. So why don't you go ahead and get started?
Okay, so first off, what is DNA?
So DNA is a chemical, and it's a really big, long word. It stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. And it's a chemical that's found in all living things. And it's pretty much the instruction manual for that organism. So it has all the instructions on how your body for a person is going to look and how it's going to work. And it's specific just for that person.
Cool. So also, how is DNA used to solve crimes?
So because DNA is unique for each individual, we can look at just little parts of the DNA and form a DNA profile that is just for that person. So whenever DNA is left at a crime scene, whether it be from blood or maybe saliva or even from touching something, we're able to get a DNA profile that could have only been left from that person of interest or the suspect. So then we try to match the DNA left at a crime scene to DNA from any suspects that the police might have.
That sounds really cool. So how easily can the DNA sample be contaminated?
Ooh, that's a great question. So contaminated samples mean that somewhere along the line, other sources of DNA got mixed in with that crime scene sample. And it's actually pretty easy to contaminate stuff because when the police officers go to a crime scene or even the lab people in the lab, we're all people too, and we're made up of a lot of DNA. So if we accidentally cough or sneeze, or even just a few of our skin cells goes down into that sample we're working with, we can contaminate it with our own DNA. And I don't want to be the one blamed for any crime that I didn't do. So we take a lot of safety measures to make sure our samples are kept really clean, and only the DNA from that crime scene is what we see in the laboratory. So we wear gloves all the time. We wear face masks, we wear lab coats, and we're constantly cleaning all of our tools and the countertops with a bleach solution to make sure there's no extra DNA laying around.
Okay, so have you ever had to testify in court?
I have testified in court. So sometimes the crimes that we investigate, they find the suspect or the person thought to do the crime, and they might go to court. And so they hear, they're in front of a judge, and there's a whole jury of people that are helping decide if that person did the crime or if they didn't do the crime. And so sometimes I would go as an expert witness, and I will tell them, this is what I did in the laboratory, and these were the results that I got. So it's a good way for everyone making the decision if that person should go to jail or not, to know if the science was helping to solve that crime.
Okay, so as a forensic scientist, have you ever gotten to go to the crime scene?
You know, I have been to a couple crime scenes. Most of the time, I just stay in the laboratory and I'm inside the whole time. But depending on where you work and what crime lab you work for, they do send the scientists to the actual crime scenes to look and to collect any evidence that might be there.
Okay, so is it harder to get some DNA samples from like some materials?
It is. That's a great question. So DNA has to be where people have touched stuff or left a body fluid. And so a lot of times surfaces that are really smooth or shiny, if you touch them, there's nothing rough to scratch off some of your skin cells. But if you touch something that has a texture to it, just any kind of like little bumps or roughness to it, you're actually really deep down scratching tiny pieces of your skin off. So those type of surfaces, it's easier for us to find out if there's any DNA there, because it's easier for anyone who touched it to actually leave DNA on that surface.
Cool. So, how large does a DNA sample have to be?
It actually could be super tiny, so tiny that you can't even see it, which is crazy, because then how do we know where to collect it from if we can't see it? But we can get DNA from anything, from a big blood stain that's like, obviously this is blood, easy peasy, we can get DNA from that. But we can also get DNA from just tiny, tiny stuff. Like if you pick up a pencil, even one time, and then put it back down, we can swab it. I can't see any DNA on that pencil, but there's a good chance there's enough there that I could use it and get a DNA profile from it.
Okay. So, if I wanted to be a forensic scientist, what would I have to study in school?
Great question. So to be a forensic scientist, you would need to have a college degree. I'm a DNA scientist, so I specialized in biology. And so the classes that are specific for that would be genetics, cell biology, molecular biology, and statistics. But there's also different areas of forensic scientists that anyone could work in. There's the fingerprints, and there's trace evidence, even a weapons section. And to work in any of those sections, you would just need a college degree in any science. So it could be biology, chemistry, physics, something like that.
Okay, so I have one more question. Do identical twins have the same DNA?
That is a really good question. So in forensic DNA laboratories, if you remember, I said we just look at little bits and pieces of the DNA and not all of the DNA that you have. So the bits and pieces that we look at, identical twins would show the same results. So if someone, a criminal, did something bad and they have a twin, we wouldn't be able to tell if it was twin A or twin B, because our results would be the same. However, scientists have found that if you look at all of the bits and pieces in your body of DNA, identical twins do have a few areas that are slightly different. But we haven't found those areas and we're not using them yet in crime labs. So short answer to your question, from what we look at, twins look exactly the same. Fun fact though, identical twins will have different fingerprints. Andrew, you had some wonderful questions today, and I'm really happy I got to talk to you. And if anyone else has any other questions, you can check out our Science from Scientists website or some other YouTube channel videos from us, and hopefully we'll answer all of your science questions. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.